Hey guys, Brad here with Ivory. Letting everybody into the waiting room. We got a lot of people registered today, so we're going to wait a couple minutes before we kick off the demo. The way that it's going to work, this is the introductory demo to show you guys how to set up reports with Ivory, and we're going to be showing this at the ultra level of subscription. So we're going to ask everybody to keep the microphones muted during the duration of the demo. We're going to be reposting these videos so you guys can refer back to them. You do have the ability to ask questions and send them into the chat down at the bottom. And I'm going to send my email address in there right now. All right, and then I'm going to share my screen across to you guys. We'll go ahead and get started here. And again, for those that just joined, we're going to be going through the main demo, showing how to create reports, show you guys the dashboard. We'll run through that automation, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A at the end as well. So I'm going to send my screen over to everybody now. All right, guys, so we're going to start the demo from the dashboard here, and I'm going to show you a couple of the features on the dashboard, and this is kind of your home screen. So let's say that I was in a open report. If I wanted to just kind of return to home, I can just click that dashboard button. And then a couple things about the dashboard. These are all the reports tied to my profile. Obviously, you guys won't be doing the same demo property over and over again, so you won't have the repeated property like I do. We have a couple tracking metrics up here at the top. And then we have an area for organizations down here at the bottom, also invoices. And we're adding a lot more business side features to the platform. So this invoice tracking feature is new. We have the comparables database and a place to store templates there as well. Before I go into the organizations area, for those of you that are just kind of getting acquainted with Ivory as a platform, I'm going to give you a brief overview of some of the terms I'm going to be using as we go through the demo. I also like sharing with everybody that this is a company that came from the mind of an appraiser. So Jake Liu, our CEO, has been an appraiser for about 13 years, and he actually sits on the board here in Michigan where we're based. And Jake's story is one that at times I hear like literally verbatim in demos, and I've met with about 1,500 appraisers in demos since January 1st. And the story is that he was trained on one of the legacy software products and didn't really love it from the beginning, but that was what his supervisor used. That was the industry standard, so that's what he went with. And Ivory is that appraiser addressing a lot of the bottlenecks and frustrations they had with their own workflow, while also bringing in new technology like AI just to speed the process up, especially in light of the 3.6 mandate. And we've been collecting feedback from you guys as well. We have focus groups and we've been talking to appraisers around the country. And a couple things about us. We're a zero data retention company. We're also not owned by like five companies above us. So we can move really quick. And when you guys make recommendations for things you want to see on the platform, if they work and they make sense, we add them. We have no reason not to, right? So some of the things that we've built off of your feedback directly, we built a mobile app for inspections. So that's called Ivory Mobile. We also built a market trend analysis tool called Ivory Analytics, and within that, an adjustment support tool called Ivory Adjuster. So those are some of the main components of the ecosystem. We also have three different tiers of subscription. So the top tier of subscription is called Ivory Ultra, and that's the version that you're going to see today. That's also the version that's free for all users through the end of the year. In the middle tier, that's Ivory Vision, and then the base tier is called Ivory Core. But you have to think about our subscriptions a little bit differently. We don't start with Ivory Ultra and basically just strip features until we get down to core. Almost every tool that is on Ivory Ultra is also available on Ivory Core. So what separates them by cost is how much automation we're applying when we do the AI autofill process from the beginning. So on Ivory Core, it's still a web-based, intuitive, modern appraisal platform, but that level is still manual data entry. When you get to Ivory Vision, that's when we start actually automating the report, and we're pulling from your inspection photos and assignment documents. This can be engagement letter, sales contract, public letter PR, or public record PRD. And then when we get to Ultra, and again, that's the free version, that's the version I'm going to show you guys today. We're pulling in from those two sources plus public record pull and MLS. And that's it. So again, all the tools pretty much that are on Ultra will also be on Core. It's just how much of the autofill process are we applying from the beginning. So taking you guys back to the dashboard, I kind of showed you the main components. You'll also notice that I'm viewing this as my personal view. I can switch this to an organizational view. So I'm going to select Brad Inc. And I like to highlight this because being web-based just makes working as a team a lot simpler. So there's very little manual uploading or downloading, passing things off. Pretty much anything that's happening between users in an organization, it's all happening on the website live. And a couple other things about being web-based. So first of all, there's no software downloaded to anybody's computer. That's good for a number of reasons. You're not really relying on your local computing power as much as our computing power. And it also will keep your devices healthier for longer, not relying on that, processing burden, storing all these bulky files locally. We're also platform agnostic, so you can use an Apple, you can use a Android device for inspections, a Mac or PC. It's completely up to the user. And we're auto saving every couple of seconds. So basically, you can pick up and put down the reporting process at any stage. And in the case of an organization, between any user. But even as a solo user, like it's very nice not to be tied to a physical workstation. If you're away from your desk, you get a revision, you just go to ivory.com and you have your full software available to you, all of your work file data, so you can handle that revision and move on. So before I go into creating the report, I want to show you guys a couple of the tools up here in the top ribbon. So first thing I want to show you is support. So if I click on support, this is where I can join the Slack channel, and it's a free account. And basically, this is an instant messaging service with all of our, report experts and support staff on the other side. So you send your questions in, we answer them live as they come in. The reason we like using Slack, though, is because you can send screenshots, we can share screens and help you address the issues. And then if I go into resources, so again, for navigation, support, and then resources. We have a lot of useful guides in here. So some of these are Ivory specific, some of them are 3.6 in general. If we look at the photos and images guide, this is basically we're merging support material from the GSEs. So these columns show the 3.6 information from the GSEs, and then this green column shows you how to address those using Ivory. We also have the CSV guide. So when you're importing data from your MLS, this shows you the 10 required, 9 recommended, and 11 optional fields when importing to Ivory Analytics, which we're going to go through today as well. And then last, I want to point out that we have the F1 reference guide. This is that big guide from the GSEs for the 3.6 report, and that lives on the platform, but we can even do you one better. So we have an AI agent, Ava, trained specifically on this document. So it's not an open web search. You can prompt Ava. It'll read through the F1 guide and get information for you directly from the GSEs. Next, this is how to. So this is a video tutorial library. Again, I clicked on how to up here at the top, and you can search, you can also filter. And I'll just point out a couple cool videos. So this one right here, if you go to UAD reporting, this shows an appraiser named Billy in New York, and he does a 3.6 order live with us on a 1 hour webinar. And then also, if you go to analytics, so this second video right here is a 15-minute walkthrough of analytics. So I'm going to go through that with you guys today briefly. This goes through it in a little bit more detail. So just so you guys are aware. And then last thing I want to show you before we actually start creating the report is the Help Center. So that was the tab up at the top for Help Center. And this is all the support content aggregated. So if I was curious how Sketch works on the platform, I can type in Sketch. And this is going to show me all the support content we have for Sketch. All right, so I'm going to go up here to Create New. And this will take me to our full menu of products. So we have the full 3.6 report. We also have the restricted and completion reports. This is Ivory Analytics, so that can be ran as a standalone module. Typically, that'll be launched from within a report that you're working on. And then we have a GPAR as well, so general purpose form for non-lender use. So I'm going to click on the 3.6 report, and then there are 3 ways that you can set up your workflow. Basically, you can start the report on the desktop, open it up on Ivory Mobile. Guys, I hear a hot mic, so everyone make sure you're staying muted for the duration of the demo, please. So you can start on the computer. You can open that up on mobile, do the inspection. When you get back in front of your computer, you'll be prompted, are you ready to autofill now? And you'll click on that tab and run the automation from there. You can also start an assignment right on the mobile app. Hey, Margaret, I think it's Terry. Do you mind muting that microphone? So you can also start these assignments right on the mobile app. So you can open up Ivory Mobile, create the report, put in 123 Main Street. And then when you get back to the computer, that report will just be on the dashboard now. So you'll click on it, run the automation from there. And then the third way, if you're not someone who wants to use a mobile app, you don't have to. So I'm going to show you that today, that you can set up those reports without using the mobile app. So my scenario is I did the inspection, but I just used my camera and I have everything on my computer and I'm ready to go. So I'm going to turn on AI autofill. I'm going to put in the subject property address. And then you guys have 2 drop-down menus here. So you have one for templates and one for client and non-client contacts. Templates you can create from any completed report. So you guys see I have like a waterfront template in there. Basically, I completed a waterfront property appraisal. I go to this drop down up here, click new template, and then and you'll see this active in a number of different areas. So I can either save that template just to my profile or I can share it to my organization so my other team members can utilize it as well. And then you can also, from that template screen, you can go in here and search through past reports. So if I had an old property, 839 Randolph, and I wanted to use that as a starting point, I can select that as well. All right, and then from there, client and non-client context. This is how you save a lot of the entities you interact with professionally. In the case of appraisers, that's like lenders, AMCs, banks, whoever else. This is going to be a backup system if you guys are using Vision and Ultra. We can pull a lot of that information using the AI from your engagement letter. All right, so I have AI autofill tabbed on. I'm going to create the order. And so at this step, I can add additional dwellings or outbuildings. So if I had multiple dwellings, if I had barns, workshops, ADUs, things like that, I can add them at this page. I don't for this property, so I'm good to continue. All right, next, this is where I'm going to bring in my photos. So if you'd done this using Ivory Mobile, the photos would be listed right down here. So I would just select the ones I wanted to automate from and continue. But again, you don't have to use the mobile app. So if I click on that window right there, it pops open my File Explorer. And I have these 28 inspection photos, and I can bring them all in at once. Okay, I'm going to continue from here. This is where I'm going to add documents. So I have a sales contract. I also have an engagement letter. And what the AI is going to do is character identification. So it's going to read through these documents, find the relevant information, and then populate that into the report. You guys will notice that I'm not going to add the public record PRD or the MLS listing ticket. That's because I'm on Ivory Ultra, and at that level of subscription, again, that's the top tier, we go to those two sources automatically. So if I was on Ivory Vision, the middle tier, we do not. And that really is the only difference or the biggest difference between those two tiers. So if I was setting up the same report using Ivory Vision, I could add a public record PRD, MLS listing ticket as PDFs. The AI would be able to read those and supplement some of that data loss between the two levels of automation. All right, I'm going to hit continue and then start autofill. And this is the last setup step. To me, this is the coolest thing that we do. I think it's one of the most powerful features of Ivory is that we're using a tech that's broadly known as computer vision to look at your inspection photos and actually extract data and populate that into the report. So what it's doing right now, it's basically taking the structure of the property. So it's going to take my exterior photos, it's going to map those into the report in the correct places. Then it's going to break down the interior structure of the property based on my photos. As the appraiser, I'm going to go through and confirm that everything was tagged correctly. Once I confirm that, that launches the automation. And computer vision will look at these photos. It will be able to pull out, well, first of all, you'll see it's going to know what the photo is of. So it'll know whether it's a living room, kitchen, dining room. It'll pull out construction materials. So that can be cabinets, countertops, flooring. It will assign an editable condition and quality rating for your exterior kitchens and bathrooms, and then also note deferred maintenance and appliances. And all of that happens in about 3 to 5 minutes for kind of a standard single family home like this. I'm usually getting up to 300 fields filled out just from the photos alone. And aside from that being very cool and saving a ton of time, these are a primary source, right? The appraiser is the one who took those photos. Usually they took them, that day or at least that week. So if we can get information from there, that's going to be more up to date in many cases than what might be available on online records. So we're going to let this finish up. Should be finishing the runtime soon. And this is one of two ways you can kind of do the inspection. So I'm showing you guys basically, I just snapped away freely. I didn't tag anything. I brought all the photos into Ivory. I'm going to let the AI tag them. I go through and confirm. So there we go, just finished. The other way is that when you're utilizing Ivory Mobile, you can go right to the unit and level, the level and room detail section of unit and build out this section with your photos in place so that when you get back and run the automation, you don't have to confirm because you already know that they're in there. So it's one of two methods. Both of them work. There's not a right answer. It kind of comes down to personal preference and whatever works fastest for you guys. So anyway, this finished tagging my interior structure. I'm going to zoom in and then you guys are going to go through and just confirm. You can also change anything. And that's something I like to emphasize on these demos. We're not trying to make an AVM. This is not intended to replace or supplement. Like this is basically, you can think of it almost like a data entry person. So we're using the model to go find the best sources. We're cross-referencing and bringing in this information. But at the end of the day, the appraiser is the one that has the final say. So you can change any output that comes from the AI. You're never locked in. So for example, we can see in this first photo, this is just an empty first floor room. So the AI didn't have a lot to go on in making its decision. It called it a living room. I think this is a den. So I'm going to click in that drop down. I'm going to select den as the category. And then down here, this is going to be the name label. And I'm just going to call that den. And the reason that we add that secondary name label is so that if you have multiple photos of the same room, you can specify that. And also if you have multiple rooms of the same type on a property. So right here, 12, 13, and 14, we can see these are all level one, they're all a half bath, and they're all bath half one. And these are three photos of the same half bath. So if I had another half bath on this property, any of those photos, I would label bath half two. And that just designates those are two separate rooms for the system. But that's it. You just go through, you make sure that level and category label are correct. And once you've confirmed that down here, that was the whole setup process. So now we're running the automation. And again, I'm on the ultra level, so you can see the four sources. It's going through public records, MLS documents, and photos. And it's just going to populate as much of this report for me as it can. And then I'll be able to open that report, change anything I want to change, and fill out the rest. So this is kind of a clear way to see the difference. I showed you this is Ultra, four sources. If I was doing the same report on Ivory Vision, it would just be documents and photos. And then Ivory Core is not an automated product. So after creating the report, I would just start doing manual data entry per usual. Okay, so while that report is running, I'm going to take you guys to another report that I ran previously. And we're going to go to the sales comparison approach section. And before I zoom there, just generally speaking, I'm going to zoom out a couple bumps. So this is what these look like in Ivory. You can see it's an intuitive kind of GUI interface. So it's not just an electronic form. It makes it a lot easier to navigate. You have your Documents tab right here, and I can quickly flip to any section. So if I want to go to the sales comparison approach, I just click there. And then I'm going to show you guys how to bring in comps from your MLS using our system. So the first thing, you're going to go up here to add comparable. You're going to select import from CSV TSV. And I'm going to adjust my zoom settings really quick. Import from CSV TSV. It pops open this window. And the scenario here is I went to my MLS and I found three properties that I knew I wanted to use as comps. I exported either a CSV file or a TSV file from my MLS, and I'm going to drag and drop that directly from downloads into this window. Now, CSV, that stands for comma separated value. TSV stands for tab separated value. These are just tables, and these formats have been around for many, many years. It's a native format to a program like Microsoft Excel. The reason they're kind of in vogue now is because it's a really easy way to digitally share tabular data. There are some extensions I know a lot of appraisers have used that utilize CSVs already, but every MLS should allow you to export a CSV or a TSV file, and then you just bring it into the system. So that's what this is simulating. I have my comps CSV right here. I drag and drop it in. You guys will see that this is just a table with three rows. And then I'm going to click Analyze. And so you can see this is one of the big differences as well structurally between a 2.6 report and a 3.6 report. A lot more fields potentially utilized by each comp. And you can see we can read in up to 72. So any of these fields you can see listed here that are on your MLS, if you add them to that export, we'll be able to read it in for you. And that's what it's doing. It's reading all of my columns, reading those three rows for three records, and it's going to create three comps for me in the grid. So there we go. That finished up. I'm going to click Apply Fields right here, and it puts those comps in the grid. Now, I will have to add a photo. One of the differences in 3.6 is that in-person comp photos are no longer a requirement from the GSEs. So I could just add a photo quickly from the internet or the MLS directly, right? Once I add that photo, I can click on the gear icon right here and click Save the Database. And I can save it just to my profile or share it across any of the organizations I'm a member of. And I'll show you guys again. I mentioned that not relying, on these bulky, big downloads locally. You can see I can rearrange my comps very easily. Everything runs smoothly. I can select multiple and remove them all at one time. And it's just nice. You know that the software is going to be running smoothly for you guys when you're getting used to a brand new report, and that's important. I'm going to go in here to add comparable, and this time I'm going to select import from database. And these are all my saved comps. So once I save them to my database, they'll be in here. You can filter by address, dwelling style, structure design, above grade, below grade, finished and unfinished area, whether it's waterfront, and also, these filters, proximity to subject. And then if I tab to organizations, this is where I'll see any of my shared comps across my orgs. So let's just go back to my profile. I'll select these first three, hit load, and it just puts them right in the grid for me. And then a couple other things you can do within the grid. And one thing I want to highlight because this is new is we actually have keyboard control for the grid now. We were getting requests from our users to have some way to quickly navigate using keyboard instead of using the mouse to click. So if you open up this little question mark right here, you can do what's called shift clicking. And we have a lot of different shortcuts that show you how to move around the grid so you can remain in keyboard control. I think just got added just a week ago. And then I'll show you guys. So I'm holding shift. I can click around and navigate the grid quickly just using my keyboard instead of the mouse. A couple other things you can clone. And so what I can do here in certain scenarios, it might be faster just to clone a comparable that's already in the grid and then change any values that are different. So I'm going to go to the gear icon. I'm going to click duplicate comparable and it creates a clone, right? So it strips the address, strips the photo, but the rest of these field values will be the same. And in some cases, that'll be faster, especially if it's something like new construction, condos, things where the subject and comparables are similar in structure. You can do the same thing from your subject property as well. So if I click here, copy, that's going to make like a comp version of my subject property here in the grid. Okay, I'm going to show you guys down at the bottom here a couple of the ways you can add adjustments. So in a lot of these sections in 3.6, if you click on the rows button, there's preset categories, right? So you can select from those preset rows. But in some of them, they have this option for adding additional row. And again, a lot of these things are coming directly from the GSEs. Basically, if you have an adjustment in this site section that does not fit into any of these pre-selected categories, you can add an additional row, and then you can just make that adjustment manually across your comparables. So just want to point that out because we had some questions about that. My thinking is that once they have an idea of some of those extra categories that people are using, they're going to build those out so they're already in there. But just going through mandate, that's the way that you can add them. And then down here at the bottom, I want to show you guys you also have an indicated value calculator. So this is the indicated value field. If I click on that little calculator right here, it's going to show me, and I haven't applied any adjustments, but it shows me my comps, shows me the way it's being applied. When I make adjustments, these will be listed here as well. And then I can adjust the weights. The rest of the comparables will adjust automatically to account for that difference. So very useful when coming up with your indicated value. And then next is reconciliation. So in this section, and a lot of these commentary sections, if you're a Vision and Ultra user, and this is the one feature that we have on Vision and Ultra that is not on Ivory Core, and that's prompting the AI to help you generate commentary. So if I click on Commentary Fill Assist, I can give it a prompt for the methods that I used, what I want in that reconciliation area. Click Generate. It's going to create text for you guys, and it'll look something like this. So really nice professional sounding text. But at the end of the day, you can still edit, right? So you can take that generated text, you can add your own edits, change anything you want to change. And then if you click on that little floppy disk right here, that little icon, saves it to your commentary database. And that commentary database is on all three levels. It's just generating that as Vision and Ultra only. All right, and then below that, you have two mapping options. So for sales comparison map, this uses the street map base map. The aerial will use satellite imagery. And basically, when you click create map, pulls all the properties from the grid. You can arrange the labels any way that you want and then save that exhibit to this section. Okay, next, I want to show you guys the tools in the right side toolbar. So as you're testing the platform, a lot of the most important tools we have available are nested in this toolbar. So just remember right side. And the first thing I'm going to show you is the work file. So if I click on that cloud icon right here at the top, you can see that all of the photos, all the documents I added during setup were added here automatically. At any time, I can add additional files or folders by clicking upload right here. And that'll just bring up my file explorer. And everything gets stored on the platform for 5 years, so we're USPAP compliant. If you want to hold on to any of the report information beyond 5 years, you can download the whole work file as a zip or download any of these items individually. So next, report images. And this is something, again, another one of those things that came directly off of user feedback. we were getting requests to see all of the photos being used in the report broken down by section. So that's what this is. They line up with the headers in the Documents tab. So I can open up any of these tabs. We can go in the building and see what photos are being used in that section all in one place. If I hover over an image and click on the pencil, it brings up my editing tools. So I have crop, blur brush, draw, highlight, brightness, all of these available. Okay, next is Ava. And Ava is what I mentioned to you guys previously, that AI agent that can be your assistant while you're working through these reports. And it's trained on the F1 guide. So I can click on this little blue star anywhere I see that in the report. And it's going to populate a question based on where I clicked. So I clicked on the reconciliation prompt. It's asking Ava about reconciliation. And again, not an open web search. So we're not going to hear from Bill on Reddit, right? This is just going to that GSE document to get information for you guys. And here it is. And then it's also going to give you page numbers. And remember, if I want to go verify that information, I just go to support, resources, and I have my F1 guide right there. So you can ask open-ended questions as well. And I like showing, I've been showing an example of the definition of deep water, but we can ask another one. We can ask, because this is one that came up recently. So if an attached finished room not accessible from the main dwelling, and I'm going to leave my spelling mistakes in there because they don't matter. So main dwelling, and it has a bedroom and bathroom. Is it an ADU? So this is something I was asked for support. I went ahead and punched it into Ava. Ava is going to go through the F1 guide. So here, it's only an ADU if it's an independent living area with a kitchen, right? So there, I have my answer. Same thing, I get page numbers, so I can go pull that reference information from there. All right, so next I'm going to show you guys two tools we use to ensure report completion and basically reduce your exposure to revisions. That's the report validation tool and the UAD compliance checker. And what this does, so we can see in the validation tool, I usually just keep this open while I'm working because it will change depending on what dynamics I trigger in a 3.6. But this tags any required field that's not yet been filled out, and you can click on these. So we see we have one right here for converted area exists. If I click on that, I get zoomed right to where that is in the report. I'll see it highlighted in red in the report. I'll also see it listed in the table of contents over here. And if you guys watch on the right side, I'm going to make a selection and that tag's going to disappear, right? And that error number goes down by one. So I can use this. So the next one, non-continuous finished area. I don't have any for this property. That tag disappears and so on. So you can use this to quickly navigate, punch in the remaining required fields. Once all those are gone, you know you filled out everything required. So then you'll come down here and you'll validate the report against the UAD compliance API from Fannie and Freddie. You pass that, you come down here to export, and this is the deliverable. So you can export as a zip containing the PDF, XML, and all your images. But if you guys watch, I'm going to click on that now. It's going to jump me back to validation. So it's actually kind of difficult to submit an incomplete report through our platform, and that's a good thing in the long run. That's just less revisions coming back. But if you want to see what the report is going to look like, you can select this printable option right here. There it goes. So it just puts a printable version into my downloads, and I can see what the report's going to look like even if I haven't passed validation yet. And I want to show you guys down here when we get to the appraiser section. So my name, company address, my credentials as a trainee in the state of Michigan. All of that is coming in from my profile. So for every new report you guys start, you don't have to fill in your own information. That will already be populated. You go up here to access your profile. It'll be a combination of your initials. So B for Brad, go to your profile, and this is where you can add all your information. So company name, company address. If you're a VA or FHA appraiser, you can put your ID in that area. You can add your designations. If I scroll down below there, we have the company name, company address. Here's my credential from the state of Michigan. This is that digital Rolodex area, so you can add contacts. So you can see the different roles we have available. And then, like I mentioned, so this templates and comps, you can specify whether it's going to be saved just to your profile or whether it's going to be shared across any of the organizations. Insurance can be added here. And then this is how you link your MLS board. So again, the free version that everyone has access to till the end of the year is Ultra. So you will be able to integrate if you're within our coverage area. And we have about 95% coverage nationwide. That being said, I want to emphasize that this is just for automating from the subject property. So if you're in that 5% that's not covered, we still have a ton of users using Ivory successfully and cutting down their turnaround times dramatically, even if they're not directly integrated, because like I showed you guys, the way that we bring in the actual property data from your MLS is CSV, TSV. So whether you're integrated or not, you can still bring in that information. You can also add multiple MLS boards. So we know some appraisers are working in multiple states or maybe multiple boards in the same state, and you can add multiple and we'll search each one. And then last thing I want to show you guys here is the signature. So you can type this out. You can also draw a signature, or you can upload an image and we'll digitize it for you so that you can sign your reports. Okay, I'm going to go back into the report now. We're going to go over to the right side again, and underneath the export area, this is analytics. So I'm going to take you guys there in just 1 minute. This is an invoicing feature right here. So you can see it'll auto assign an invoice number. It'll populate from your profile. You can add fees, you can add line items. So a lot of these are new features that are coming from suggestions from our users. Tax rate, you can add that. You can add deposits. So, and we're going to continue building this area. Our goal is to have Ivory be a one-stop shop. So not just the front end, the back end, billing, tracking, payment, things like that as well. And then last thing I want to show you on the right side is just the little headphones icon. That's just another way that I can access the Slack channel. So if I have questions while I'm working on a report, I can send them in. I can also report a technical issue. So if something's not running properly, but I want to show you guys also, we have a feature request. So if there's something you want to see on the platform, you can come to that headphones icon, fill out a ticket for a feature request. And we really do take this feedback seriously, guys. So don't hesitate. All right, next, before we look at the result, I'm going to show you guys the market section, and we're going to use that to head into Ivory Analytics. All right, so this is the market section. This is essentially the 1004 MC. It's a lot of the same information. It's just a section of the report now instead of a separate form. And you can see it's all red, right? It's all blank. All of this is required, so we got to get it populated. And I'm going to do that using analytics. So you can see you can launch analytics right from that page. You can always launch it from the sidebar over here. So I'm going to click Create Analytics. And it's going to prompt me to add a CSV or TSV file again. And so this one is not, a pre-selected set. Basically, I went to my MLS. I did I think I did a 2 mile search radius, 3-year look back period. And I'm in a high volume, high turnover area. So that generated, several hundred listings for me. All statuses, and I'm going to bring them all in at once. All right, so when it brings you to this page right here, the first time, excuse me, the first time you guys bring in a CSV from a new source, that being your MLS, you'll click Autofill with AI. And what that's going to do, so you can see right now I have 6 out of 10, 6 out of 9 of the recommended, and 9 out of 11 optional. A lot of that is because of naming conventions. So if your MLS, excuse me, guys, if your MLS calls something close price and we call it sale price, that breaks the connection, right? And in the past, you'd have to make sure everything matched up perfectly. Now, because we're an AI-driven platform, that's no longer the case. So you can see autofill stopped running. I went from 6 out of 10. Now I have 10 out of 10, 9 out of 9. So I'm ready to continue. But let me show you guys. Let's just say that a couple of these didn't get mapped. So I'll unmap sale price. I'll unmap year built. And so I ran autofill with AI. When it finished, I only had 8 out of 10. So this is what I'm going to do. And again, I want to emphasize you guys only have to do this one time when bringing in a CSV from a new source, because once you're done mapping this, you save that mapping right over here. So in the future, anytime you bring in a CSV or TSV from that source, you'll select the save mapping and instantly everything will sync up. So again, one-time process. You come in here and first thing, I'm going to look at my warning messages, right? So I see I have 2 required fields missing, year built and close price. So I navigate over here. These are the Ivory fields in this column. These are your CSVs fields from your MLS, and then this is a sample result. So the sample result, if I went to list price and my sample result said like Southwest or something like that, I would know something is up because that's not a number. So first, I'm going to address these ones. So I see year built and close price. I go over here on the left. I see close price. Okay, it's not mapped. So I click on that and then I just search. So I'm going to search price because hopefully there'll be something called price. There it is, right? Sale price. I click there. Now I have 9 out of 10. Next one is year built. So I go down to where that is, click, search year. There's my year built. So I'll click there. Now I'm back to 10 out of 10. And then even if they are mapped correctly, it will want you to verify 4 fields. So it wants you to confirm address, status, lot size, and bathrooms. So I'll show you guys how to do that. And you'll notice that there's not a percentage under that required tag right there. So I'm going to click on the address. And what I like to do first is I just scroll to the bottom because you're going to get this preview. So if I have street, city, state, zip, I know that I have everything I need. So I'm going to click Save Mapping. And now that goes to 100%, right? So the next one is standard status. And I'm just going to match these up. So active to active, sold to sold, pending to accepting backup offers and pending. And those are the only statuses I imported. So I'm going to save that. That goes to 100%. And this is the process, guys. So again, you just do this the first time you bring in a CSV, you match all these up. I'll just confirm my bathrooms. And then this is good. So that triggered a conflict. What that means is that bathrooms field is getting mapped to 2 places. I only want it to get mapped to 1. So all I have to do is scroll. There it is, right? I see where that conflict is. This is an optional bathrooms field. So I'm just going to click not mapped. That turns it off. That removes the conflict. So see, that's not listed up here anymore. And then the last one, it wants me to confirm the units in my lot size. So mine is in acres, and it's showing me the conversion from acres to square feet. That's good. So I save that, and now I'm at 100%. So again, once you guys have that finished the first time, you save the mapping, and I'll show you what happens. So I'm going to exit out of here. I'm going to bring in my CSV all over again. But this time, because this is not the first time I'm bringing it in, right? So instead of autofill, I go to load a save mapping, and this is my save mapping right here. So if you guys watch the numbers right there, I click on my mapping, and now I'm at 10 out of 10, right? So right back to where I was, and I'm ready to go. All right, I'm going to continue. It's going to automatically link the subject property from the report I launched analytics from. So that's Cheltenham. That's good. And when I hit save and continue, it's going to bring all these listings in and plot them on a map for me here in analytics. So now that I'm in analytics, a couple things just generally. Most of the gray buttons up here at the top are interacting with your 3.6 order. So when you want to export, when you're actually working and doing functions within analytics, you're going to be using the blue buttons down here. So the first one I'm going to use, I'm going to draw my market area. So if you guys already kind of designated the market area on the MLS, you basically just draw a polygon around the whole area. But you can also subset, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say, let's say, I want to have a little bit of a bias towards the east side of Woodward Avenue. This is just a basic polygon tool, so I'm clicking and dropping points around, and then you'll double click to close the shape. And I'm going to click save. And now this is going to bring up my filters. So for this demonstration, since I'm just showing you guys how the platform functions, I'm going to leave it on sold, but you have a lot of options. So you can filter by list and close date, price ranges, bedrooms, bathrooms, architectural style. I'm going to click add to export and apply. And it's going to subset all those listings based on the geographic area I drew and the filters that I put in place. So the next step, I go to table view. I'm going to add the filtered listings to my comp set, and we'll see them all turn green. That subject property is going to be pinned to the top row. So as you guys scroll down, you can compare these field values. And also, any one of these columns can be sorted. So if you sort by, let's say, close price. So if I had a couple properties I noticed in this distribution that were like above $4 million, I would know those are outliers, and I could grab them right here and remove them from the comp set before running my analysis. So I'm going to add those back in because they're not real outliers, and that's all you have to do. You get your lists ready, you go here to market analysis, and that's it. So that generates all the statistics for you that will then populate into that market section of the report. So median living area, median beds, median baths, days on market, sell price low, sell price high. So all that's getting generated. And if I go down here, these are the four graphs that are being specifically recommended by the GSEs for the market section. So we just generate them for you from your CSV, so they're there to use. And that's sale to list price ratio, absorption rate, days on market, and year built distribution. And you can set the look back period up here in the top right. So I can see 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, 6 months. Oops, I don't have enough data for 6 months, but this will show me how those trends change over different time scales. And then down here, we have the price trend data. So this is normal close price. This is adjusted close price. You have the linear fit as the default, but you can select the polynomial as well. You also have the ability to switch this. So this is total price. We can switch that to price per square feet. So when I'm ready to send this information to my 3.6 order, I click Add to Export right here, and then I exit out of this menu. Now, like I mentioned before, the export areas are up here at the top in gray. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to click Market Data Export. And I'm just going to select the neighborhood that I drew. The system's going to bring in that polygon. It's also going to generate geo coordinates, and it'll use that for your market bounds. So you don't have to do like, north of X Street, south of Y Street. The coordinates will be used. You have a couple of areas where it prompts you for required commentary, but you don't have to do these in analytics. You can do them here, or you can do them once they're in the report. And when you're ready, you send export to report. It's going to link to the order that I launched analytics from, but I can send this report to any of my orders. I can also send it to anything in my organizations. Okay, I'm going to hit attach and continue. And we're going to see that running down here at the bottom. And it gives me the option to go view that in analytics. So I'm going to click there. And now that page that was blank and all red is all filled out. So I have my coordinates for the market bounds. I have the filter, so I only filtered by sold, but if you guys put in like ranges, other filters, that will get added here automatically to search criteria description. And then you have commentary fill assist in these areas as well. These are all my statistics populated. Price trend source, I would just say real comp. And then down here, these are all the exhibits, right? So all the graphs that I generated got added to the exhibit section down here at the bottom. And then I can edit any of these captions. And you guys, the commentary database extends to your photo captions as well. So if I click the floppy disk, now that's a saved caption for me too. All right, so for the rest of the live demo portion, I just want to show you guys the report that we were running on the other screen. So we're all done, and we filled out 510 fields of that report before I do any manual data entry myself. And you can see how this is broken down by section right here. Another important thing about this review page, this will show you on a one-to-one basis where we're pulling each field from. So it's not like an ambiguous data dump where it's, photos, MLS, etc., but you don't know which went where. This tells you. So a lot of these in assignment information are tagged PDF. They're coming from the engagement letter and the sales contract. And that makes sense. That's where I would expect that to populate. When I go down to dwelling exterior, I want to show you this is where it starts to lean really heavily on the imagery. So most of these are coming from the inspection photos. And then unit interior, we can see like the first 15 or so are from other sources. The rest of that 218 is coming from my inspection photos. And that's how, if I add up all the sections, those other supplemental documents, I would probably get north of 300 fields filled out of this report if I was on Ivory Vision versus 450 plus, getting close to 500 in this case on Ultra. But on Core, you're getting zero, right? So to me, for a lot of users, the step up from a Core subscription to a Vision subscription is going to be a bigger step up than from Vision onto Ultra. A lot of people are opting into Ultra if you really want to push your volume, see, how many reports you can get done in a month. But there's a ton of value in Vision as well. So I'm going to open up this report and we'll close just by showing you a side by side. So I'm going to take you guys to the unit section. And then I'm going to open up this other report that is a non-automated 3.6. So basically, if I was using Core, I created the order and I just haven't done any data entry yet. So let's go down to that same section. And we got a lot of work to do, right? So we're seeing a lot of red. We're going to be camped out here as a data entry person for quite some time. And this is something that you'll see in other sections of 3.6 as well. It's just a much more data entry intensive report than it was when you were doing 2.6 reports. So that would be your starting point. We can go to the other report, go to that same section. We're going to be in much better shape. So these three in red would have imported from my sketch. I just didn't do a sketch on this call or on this demo. That's why those are blank. So all this would be filled out. We go down to level and room detail and it's done, right? So level one, we see all the photos. So the den came in like I specified, living room, dining room, breakfast room, and kitchen. B1, which is my basement level, you'll see the utility room. And on the exterior page, it will be able to extract information about the heating and cooling system if you take photos of those utilities. That will actually populate into the report. Also, in the rec room, you'll notice that there are drop ceilings. The AI is going to recognize that as a unique ceiling style as well. So this is the condition and quality ratings for the kitchens and bathrooms. If Brad, the appraiser, thinks this is actually Q4 and C3, I just change it, right? Like it's never going to snap back to the AI's answer. And we can see the commentary coming from that computer vision, the interpretation of your photos. So dark wood cabinets, stone counters, tile floor, that's all the AI. So here in interior features, it's going to pull out the flooring types. It's also going to show you example photos. And then if you get to wall and ceiling information, 8-foot ceiling heights, flat and drop ceiling styles. And that's why I showed you the rec room photo because the AI said, oh, that's a unique ceiling style. So it mapped it down here as well. So this is why we're killing it with turnaround time right now, guys. We have some users that are doing these in an hour or less. Plenty of people that have gotten the reporting time down to 2 to 3 hours, even if they're not super tech forward. Because this is your starting point, right? You're coming into some of these sections 80%, 85% filled out. Change what you want to change, move on to the next section. Otherwise, you're going to be coming in here, and if it's not with Ivory Core, in most cases, it's not even going to look this good because it's not going to be a modern web-based intuitive platform. All right, so we're going to pause here. That was the end of the live demo portion. Margaret's going to help us with a little bit of Q&A, and then if you guys want to hang out to see how to create a free account, I think we'll do Q&A until, well, we'll see how many we get through. Whenever we're done with that, we're going to do 10 minutes of just creating the profile for those of you that want to check that out as well. All right, Margaret, hit
Right.
me.
All right. We got lots of questions. Okay, first one. How much do we need to pay to really take advantage of the early adopter pricing?
Okay, so yeah, let me take you guys to the pricing page. So you see that Sal right here. So we have annual and monthly subscriptions. And the way that the sale works, and just so you can see, we take $500 off any of the annual tiers. So that makes Core 1000, Vision 2000, Ultra 3000. This is unlimited reports for the year. And I just want to make sure everyone understands we are not charging per report. There was kind of a rumor that got circulated that we were going to be charging something like $70 per report. That was never from our end. We're just showing you on this slider, depending on your volume, what that breaks down to per report, right? So if I'm doing 30 reports per month on an annual subscription, breaks down to 833 per report on Ultra, 556 on Vision, 278 on Core. If I switch that to monthly, it goes up a little bit in price, right? So not a huge disadvantage to go monthly. I think it adds like $1 in most cases, maybe a little bit more than that. And that makes Ultra $10 per report, 667 and 333 here on Core. And you can adjust that slider. So if you're, getting into the 40s and 50s, you can see that actually makes Ultra go down dramatically. So 833 report, if you're doing 50, you get to 5, 333, 167. So when it comes to picking the tier, it really just depends on what you want to do. Like, are you looking at keeping the same volume and spending about half the time doing it, or are you looking to really maximize and see how much volume you can get through? If you're in the latter case, you probably want to go in with Ultra. If the former, Vision might be good.
All right. Thank you. What if we have more than 50 photos we want to include in the report?
That's a great question. So you're not capped at 50 photos imported into the work file. You're only capped at 50 photos to use when you're automating. And I can tell you, unless it's a very, very, very complicated extraneous circumstance, 50 photos is more than enough for the AI. You guys saw that I added 28 photos to automate this property. I wouldn't even want to add any more because it's not about just hitting it with as many photos as possible. It's about having a clear photo of everything you want it to capture. So 28 was plenty.
Perfect. Next question is, what if there are two or three different MLSs that make up the total comparables? Do you run the process multiple times and all the comparables are added?
No, so the MLS, again, when you're adding comparables, that's through a TSV or CSV import. So integration for that step doesn't matter. When you're automating the subject property, if you have multiple MLS systems, you can add those at the profile. And that's what I showed you guys briefly. So if you go to the profile area, go to MLS boards. So I have real comp in there, I can add another one, right? But remember, this is just automating for the subject property. Regardless of whether you're integrated or not, you can use CSV, TSV files to import those comps from multiple MLS services.
Okay, great. Where do you make adjustments for property amenities?
That would be in the amenities section of the grid. So I can show you if we go to oops, I'm opening a report. So actually, this will show you guys something. If you're working as a team, I just tried to open a report that was already open, and so it didn't let me do that, right? And that's important so you're not writing over each other if you're in an organization. If we go to the grid, so there's a section for amenities in here. I'm going to add a couple comps just to make this easier to see. There, right here. So property amenities. So again, you have like pre-selected categories. You can also add miscellaneous if it falls outside of that and adjust across the line.
Perfect. Next question is, can you add a flood map?
You can. It's not a requirement for the appraiser. It's actually, another difference in 3.6, that it's no longer like the appraiser's responsibility to verify whether it's in or not in a flood zone. Like if you know, you can indicate that, but it's not going to be a requirement to add the flood map. If you're being asked to add it from a client, you can absolutely do so. I would go to site, and then when you scroll down to the bottom of site, you have an exhibit section. So I can add an exhibit here, select the category. So I don't know if they might not even have like a permanent flood. I'm just going to say site exhibit, and that's where you can add it. You can just drag and drop, and it can be, PNG, JPEG, uh, WebP, HEIC. So pretty much any photo format will work.
Okay. Next question, is it possible to practice a report or is a sign up needed?
Oh no, so everybody has access to Ultra for free to the end of the year. So no credit card. And that's if you want to hang out after we're done with the Q&A, I'm going to show you guys how to create your account. The way that it works is if you sign up for, and I'm sorry guys, I kind of skipped away before describing this. So the way the sale works is if you sign up for your subscription before September 1st, you will get the discounted price, but you'll still be able to use Ultra for free until the end of the year. And then on January 1st, if you selected Vision, let's just say your account would switch from an Ultra account to a Vision account. But even if you don't sign up before September 1st, you still have access for free to the end of the year.
Perfect. Is the lender or AMC one versus two?
One versus two. Oh, so I think they're talking about client and non-client contacts. So I can show you that in most cases in 3.6, the lender is going to be the client, the AMC would be the non-client. The way it's written out in the F1 guide is like there are certain legislative areas where maybe the AMC could be the client, but in most cases, lender is the client, AMC is the non-client.
Perfect. Um, just looking for a few more questions. Is the public record cross verification for comparables information automated?
For comparables information, no. So that is the comparables are added using the CSV TSV file. So whatever is on that CSV TSV is going to be added to the report. What's nice about doing it that way is that decouples it from the MLS. So when you save those values, and if there's an incorrect value in the grid, and I'll just go back to that area while I'm talking about it. So if I go back to the sales comparison approach section, let's say that I had, I brought this in for my MLS. There was a wrong value or a couple wrong values. I could adjust those values to be correct. And then when I save that to my database right here, so if I want to use that Maxwell property in the future, it's going to bring in the values that I saved, right? Like it's not going to go back to the MLS, bring any incorrect information all over again.
Mm-hmm. And then how do you know your property is in a hazard zone? Multiple people are wondering about that one.
Um, so that's not really an Ivory question. I mentioned before, so if the like flood map specifically, that's not on the appraiser anymore to verify. And I'll show you if you go to, I think it's in the site section. Let me take you guys down there. Tammy would be angry at me because I'm scrolling too much. If you guys have been in our other ed sessions, she doesn't like that. But let's go to where are we at? Do, do, do. There it is. Okay, so hazard zone. So again, you can indicate it if you're in a flood zone. If you're in a lava zone, you can indicate that, what type of flood zone or lava zone you're in. But the verifying this is not on the appraiser anymore for a 3.6 report. That's what I was mentioning it before. That's why we don't have flood maps because it's not a requirement. Again, if I go to the exhibit section at the bottom because I want to add a flood map, plat map, anything like that, I can. But yeah, it's just not a requirement. It's not on the appraiser to verify that. So.
Got you.
Anyway, guys, we're at 3 o'clock, Margaret, so we're going to cap the questions right there. Guys, I shared my email address with you, so if you have additional follow-up questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Also, remember, as you're working through the reports and testing out, go to the Slack channel, submit your questions in there. That gets it in front of our whole team. So a lot of options after the call's over for your questions. But guys, if you were just joining for the demo, appreciate you taking the time. We're just going to pause for like 1 minute here, not even 1 minute, but I'm going to go to the other screen and show you guys how to create an account. So I'm going to stop sharing for 1 minute. I'm going to pull open an incognito window and we're just going to go from there. Okay, the reason I'm starting from an incognito window is so it doesn't recognize me. In our early stages when we were testing, I made probably usernames with every email I've ever owned. So that's why I'm starting from here. But basically, when you want to create an account or when you want to access your account as well, you just go to ivory.com to start. So we get to ivory.com. While we're on here, I want to mention to you guys that you can register for future demos. You can send this link to anybody if they wanted to check out a group demo as well. And remember that a lot of these sessions are being recorded and posted to How To in Ivory Studio. So if you guys want to refer back to what we covered, that's always available to you. And you can also schedule one-on-ones with us. The only thing here, obviously, there's a ton of interest in the platform. We've added thousands of users over the last couple months. So the demo calendar for one-on-ones is a couple weeks out. So feel free to sign up for a session though. We'll let you guys know if any cancellations come up. But again, the one-on-one demos are not really any different than the group demos. It just gives you the ability to kind of have specific questions in those. So feel free to register for those as well. I'm going to go here to create report. And this brings me to the login screen, right? So I can pick which way I want to set up my profile. I use Google. I just work in Google Workspaces a lot, so that was the easiest way for me, but you guys kind of have your pick. You can use Google, you can use Apple or email and password. One thing to keep in mind is that everybody who is using Ivory Mobile will have to create a email and password credential to log in, but that can just be added on top of one of the other sign-in methods. So you can still use like your Google login for the main site, and you'll just email and password to sync to the mobile app. So I'm going to go here and log in with Google. Got my email going. Yes, it is me. Okay, just do an email and password. All right, and so it's going to show you guys this message as well. The other message it's going to show you, it's going to look a little bit different because I have logged into this before, but I haven't done anything in this, so it will look the same. The pop-up window is the only thing that's going to be different, and that pop-up will give you kind of a quick tour of the page, and it'll also show like, are you ready to join the Slack community? Are you ready to populate your profile? I would do those right from the beginning because again, every time you start a new report, if your profile is populated, the appraiser section gets filled out. And also the Slack channel is the way to get live support from our staff when you're working through reports. So I would just do that from the beginning. What this is showing me right here is Ivory Directory. And we set this up so that basically you can indicate to AMCs, lenders, people that are looking for appraisers to complete 3.6 orders that you're ready to accept orders. And we have had people source them through the directory. So you can access that in the profile as well if you missed this initial pop-up. But this is what it's going to look like when you come into a new profile, right? Or a new account. And first thing that you're going to do, you're just going to go right over to the profile area. So again, it's BW for Brad Weiss. It'll be your initials. Go to your profile. And this is where you can populate all of your information. So phone number, designations, you can add additional designations. If you're a VA, FHA appraiser, this is where you can put in your IDs. And then company information if you're working as part of a company. And I'm scrolling, guys, just since we're going through one by one, but you have this quick navigation on the left as well. And so if I want to add a state credential, so in my main profile, I have my trainee credential in there from the state of Michigan. I'll click the plus, and I'm going to tell you guys this because it's not just in the profile, but in the report too. Wherever you guys see a plus symbol, that's the way that you add something. So you'll see that in a lot of the rows. Just remember, anytime you're looking to add something, look around that area for a plus. That's usually the way that you'll bring it in. So I'm going to go to my credentials, and you see the options here. So all the typical categories, also other. And then you can bring in an image, ASC identifier, and this will populate when you start new reports. This is the digital Rolodex, so I can click add, and these are the roles, right? So someone asked about one and two, so client versus non-client, and then AMC versus attorney, investor, etc. And you can save those to your profile. If you're a member of an organization, you can share those across the orgs as well. This is where you can add an image of your insurance policy. And you guys can see down here, like this is true of any of the areas. You can drag and drop your photos into any one of these boxes. It'll take PNG, JPEG, WebP, HEIC, PDF. So almost any photo format will work to just drag and drop these in. And then MLS board, right? So I mentioned I use RealComp. So I'll just search RealComp right here. There it is. And then the MLS number. So this isn't like login, password, any of that. We have a data agreement, so we have access to this information. This is the numeric identifier that you are a member of that MLS. So some call it MLS number, some call it MLS ID, but that's all you need is the name and the number. And then digital signature. So I went through this briefly before. You can type it out and it'll stylize it for you. You can also draw a signature right in here. And maybe you guys are more talented than me, but that's not a bad B. And then we go to the upload here, and this is where you guys can just use a signature, and we'll essentially digitize that so it can be your actual signature. And so this I did not cover in the main demo, guys, and this is some of the things you'll use. This is like the settings area. So when I mentioned you want to make sure that you have email and password set up in addition to whatever login method you use. If you use email and password as your main login method, then you can just stick with that and use the same thing in mobile. But if you used Apple or Google, you will want to make an email and password as well if you plan on utilizing the mobile app. And then you can set a new confirmation email. You can set your password here. So if you want to reset your password, and then this is important right here. So two-factor authentication, you don't want to turn this on by mistake. We've had a couple people do that. So I just want to make sure that I explain to you guys what this is. Some of you may have heard of apps like Google Authenticator or Duo. This is just an added level of security. So if you turn on 2FA, after you enter your email and password, if you're logged out, it'll basically put a code on the screen that says this is your authentic, or it gives you a box that says, give me the code from your authenticator app. So then you would go to whatever authenticator app you're using on your phone or tablet. It'll give you the number. You put the number in and then you log in. So that's just an added layer of security. And for those of you that are owners of companies, you can make it so that your team has to use 2FA if you want everybody to use that. And then last things to go over for you right here, marketing communications. So you can opt in and out. We don't really spam you guys with a lot of really like sales heavy emails, but for notifications of new webinars, for new, feature updates, if we're going to be attending conferences, because we've been doing a lot of that this year and we're going to continue, a lot of that comes out through the email notification. So just keep that in mind. And then last thing, I already mentioned this to you guys, but this is that appraisal directory. So if you click on here, you can kind of, set up your coverage states and just tell, interested parties that you're ready to accept orders. All right, well, that is the end of the demo for today. I appreciate everybody making the time. My email is in the chat, so feel free to shoot me any specific questions you guys have. Feel free to create your new account and just start testing. I mean, I know that this platform is big. There's a lot going on, but once you guys actually get into it, and we're seeing this in real time, like once people get into it, they do a couple test reports, they feel much better, not just about Ivory, but about 3.6 in general. And I think that's a big compliment to our team that we're listening to you guys and we're building this based directly off the people that are going to use it. So, anyway, appreciate the time, guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Margaret, thanks for your help, and we'll see you guys on the next one.